The Whispers in the Leaves. It was a crisp autumn night when Lena walked home from her late shift. The streets were unusually silent, except for the soft crunch of fallen leaves beneath her shoes. The street lamps glowed weakly, their light struggling to push back the heavy darkness. As she passed a pile of leaves gathered near the curb, she froze. They were moving, not in the wind, but as if something was crawling underneath them. Her heart skipped. She took a step closer, trying to convince herself it was just her imagination. But then she heard it. A whisper. Not the rustle of wind, not the sound of passing cars. This was a voice, low, urgent, words she couldn't fully understand. The leaves shifted again, and in the faint light, she saw something that nearly stopped her breath. Hidden in the pile was a shape, an opening, a mouth, dark, wide, and gasping. The whisper grew louder, forming clear words now. "Stay with us. Stay with us." Panic surged through her. She turned and ran home, without daring to look back. The next morning, Lena tried to laugh it off as a bad dream. But when she opened her front door, her blood ran cold. On the porch sat a small, neat pile of autumn leaves, and inside, pressed flat and pale, was a human hand. The Harvest Man. Every October, in the little farming town of Hollow Creek, people built scarecrows. Some said it was tradition. Some said it kept the crows away. But no one mentioned the other reason. Ethan, a newcomer, thought the whole thing was ridiculous. Scarecrows were just straw and old shirts, nothing more. He laughed when he saw the fields lined with crooked figures in flannel and hats. One night, after the harvest festival, Ethan walked home alone. He passed the cornfield, still buzzing from drinks and laughter. That's when he noticed something strange. One of the scarecrows seemed closer than before. Its head was tilted, as if watching him. He blinked, shook his head, and kept walking. But the next day, when he passed again, the scarecrow had moved. Its flannel shirt was torn. Beneath it, he swore he saw not straw, but flesh, pale, rotting flesh. That night, scratching echoed against his window. Ethan pulled back the curtain. His heart slammed in his chest. The scarecrow stood outside, its blank burlap face pressed against the glass. They found Ethan 3 days later in the field. His arms were stretched wide, his mouth sewn shut. His body was stuffed with straw. Another scarecrow swaying with the others in the autumn wind.
The apple orchard. The Miller family's orchard was the pride of the county. In October, families came from miles away to pick apples, sip cider, and walk between rows of red and gold. But no one talked about the locked row, the one behind the rusted gate, the one with twisted trees that never bore fruit. Anna, a curious teenager, wanted to know why. On Halloween night, she and 2 friends slipped past the warning signs. The deeper they went, the colder the air became. The trees looked wrong here, crooked, blackened, their bark splitting like open wounds. And on the branches hung apples, but not red, not green. They were black, glossy like tar. Anna, half joking, plucked one down and took a bite. The taste was bitter, metallic, her mouth filled with the taste of blood. She spat it out, but the apple pulsed in her hand, beating like a heart. The orchard groaned. The trees began to move. Roots tore free from the soil, slithering like snakes. Branches reached down like claws. One of her friends screamed as a branch coiled around his neck and dragged him up into the dark leaves. Another was pulled into the ground, swallowed alive by writhing roots. Anna ran, the rows twisting endlessly around her. Every direction led back into the trees. She stumbled, scratched, bleeding, until at last she burst through the gate and into the normal orchard again. When she turned back, the locked row was gone. The gate was sealed as if it had never been opened. The next morning, families returned to laugh, pick apples, and drink cider. No one noticed the faint cries beneath the soil. The orchard had been fed.
The final bonfire. On the last night of October, the town gathered around the great bonfire. It was a tradition as old as the town itself, a night of music, feasting, and celebration. But there was an older story, whispered only in fragments, that the fire was not just for celebration, it was for sacrifice. Noah, an outsider, laughed at the idea. He watched the fire from a distance as the townsfolk sang and danced. But as midnight drew near, something shifted. The flames leaned toward him, as if reaching for his body. The ground beneath his feet grew hot. His shoes began to smoke. He tried to back away, but hands held him firmly in place. Smiling faces all around, smiles that were too wide, too eager. "The fire chooses," an old woman whispered. The flames roared higher, twisting into shapes like arms and claws. Noah screamed as they wrapped around him, dragging him into the inferno. The crowd clapped, they cheered. The fire blazed brighter than ever, painting their faces in gold and crimson. By dawn, there was no sign of Noah, just embers glowing softly in the ash. The fire was satisfied, for now.